When players get drafted into the NBA, especially nowadays in the era of one-and-dones, they are oftentimes teenagers with a severe lack of experience playing at a high level of competition. Coming in as 19-year-olds who were dominating high school players just 2 years ago, the NBA is a whole different animal, so struggling early on in their careers is a common thing. Because of this, it takes a few years for some players that had a lot of hype early on to become good players that they were expected to be. This brings us to the topic of today's video, where we will be talking about 4 players in particular that are finally starting to take their games to the next level and become the players that many expected them to be. Before we get started though, be sure to check out the Hardwood Amino app. This app is basically a basketball community by fans for fans, and the community has over 100,000 members where all of the content is user-generated. This means that if you, say, wanted to write an article, you could do so on this app and have thousands of other fans engaged with that content. Some of my other features with this app include the public chat rooms where you can talk with other fans in real time, you can vote on polls, and you can take quizzes to test your knowledge about the game. There will be a link down below in the description to download the app, and when you do, make sure to follow me with my username being hoopsreference. I'll see you all there, and now with that being said, let's get back to the video. The first player up on this list is Myles Turner of the Indiana Pacers. Turner was the 11th pick by the Indiana Pacers back in the 2015 NBA draft, and probably could have been selected higher, but in his one season at Texas, he was fairly inconsistent even though his talent was obvious. One complaint about his game was that he wasn't always engaged and disappeared in games for extended periods, and needed to be more aggressive. He also needed work on the defensive end of the floor at the time, which is now actually his biggest strength, which we'll get into in a second. His rookie year went okay, as he had decent production and even won the starting job in the second half of the season. In his second season, he took a pretty big step forward and showed legitimate flashes of star potential, which led to him being a very popular choice that offseason as a player that many thought would take the leap into star status. That, however, did not happen, as his third year actually saw him take a step back, and in many ways he regressed. His points, rebounds, blocks, and shooting efficiency all decreased, disappointing many who had confidence in him. This year, however, he's on this list because he's finally starting to reach his full potential, but not in the traditional way that stands out in the box score. Looking at his numbers, he's averaging 12.8 points and 7.3 rebounds per game, which are pretty pedestrian for a big man, but his calling card has actually been on the defensive end, where he has emerged into a legitimate Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's leading the entire NBA in blocks per game this year at 2.8 per game, and is the biggest factor for why the Pacers are the second best defensive team in the league. Sure, Victor Oladipo also plays a part in that, but he's missed a ton of time so far due to injuries this year, and is also now out for the year, yet the Pacers continue to excel on defense because of Turner's rim protection. His offensive game may be more complementary than dominant, which isn't quite as good as some thought it would be, but he's an efficient stretch big, doesn't force much, and does his job well. That, on top of his stellar defense, has his potential trending back in the right direction. The next player up on this list is Buddy Hield of the Sacramento Kings. Hield is an interesting case to look at, and this has been the case since his college days. He won the Player of the Year in college during his senior season by being an absolutely lights-out shooter and scoring a whopping 25 points per game for the Oklahoma Sooners while leading them all the way to the Final Four. After he graduated, he was a highly sought-after NBA prospect despite having played 4 years of college, because his skill set was seen as something that would easily translate to the NBA. That, along with his solid frame and pretty good size for a wing player, earned him a nickname given to him by the owner of the Kings that gets made fun of a lot nowadays, but at the time was somewhat serious, being referred to as someone who is big like Clay and shoots like Steph. He got drafted by the New Orleans Pelicans 6th overall, but struggled a bit early on, which is normal for rookie guards no matter how much college experience they had. The NBA is a different beast when it comes to competition, and guards especially have to adjust a lot. The Pelicans, however, gave up on him pretty early, as they packaged him in a trade for DeMarcus Cousins in an attempt to form a dominant Twin Towers big man duo with Anthony Davis, but we all know how that turned out. Almost immediately upon arrival in Sacramento, Hield began playing better, and his shot really started falling. He was only scoring about 13 points per game though, which made him a solid role player, but this year, he's really taken his game to a whole nother level. This season, he's a legit threat to score 20 on any given night and is averaging 20.2 points per game. The best part is that his three-point shot is going in at a historically great clip, as he's shooting 45.7% from three on 7.4 attempts per game, which is the second best percentage in the league out of everyone that shoots at least 5 threes per game. His non-stop work ethic, moving off the ball to get open, and his improved handle to create shots have made him incredibly difficult to stop, and as it turns out, it looks like the Kings easily won the DeMarcus Cousins trade because of his development. The third player up on this list is D'Angelo Russell of the Brooklyn Nets. Russell became a fan favorite back in his college days at Ohio State because of his eccentric and flashy playstyle filled with crafty moves, pull-up jumpers, and soft floaters. He was the second overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft by the Los Angeles Lakers, where he had a bit of an up-and-down tenure. He did have some positive moments for sure though in his first 2 years that he spent in LA. He was a decent scorer, occasionally flashed the playmaking ability that made him such a highly touted prospect, and knocked down a few clutch shots for which he became notorious for having ice in his veins. However, he also did some boneheaded things, including one infamous incident where he, in a sense, exposed teammate Nick Young over something that I won't go into in any further detail about, but I think most of you know what I'm talking about. After this happened, he probably lost a bit of trust and respect in the locker room, and that summer, he was traded to Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, with a fresh start and the ability to play more freely and lead a team, he was a popular breakout pick by many in the preseason before last year, and early on he did look ready to fulfill that, but unfortunately he struggled with injuries and his breakout was set back. This year, however, he's been able to stay healthy and is playing his best basketball of his career. He's averaging career highs basically across the board, with 19.2 points and 6.4 assists per game while shooting 44% from the field and 38% from three. And he's able to explode for 30 on any given night. His steady play is also, most importantly, contributing to the Nets making a strong playoff push, as they are currently in 6th place in the East and are winners of 20 of their last 26 games. With All-Star reserves getting announced soon, and the season Russell's been having, don't be surprised if he gets selected to his first All-Star game this year. The fourth and final player on this list is Justice Winslow of the Miami Heat. Winslow played 1 season at Duke and won a championship, so he had just about as good of a career in college as he possibly could have. His upside as a prospect was reliant on him being good at many things, but not necessarily great at any one thing. He was drafted 10th overall in 2015, which at the time seemed a bit lower than many thought he would go, but out the gate he struggled, and not just his rookie year. Through 3 seasons in the NBA, he averaged only 7.5 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 2 assists per game while struggling mightily to shoot the ball. He's discussed how he struggled mentally early on in his career, but is now in a brand new, better state of mind, and with that has come major development in his play on the court. This season, and particularly over the last few months, Winslow has been the Heat's most impressive player. With point guard Goran Dragic missing time because of injury, Winslow was trusted to play the point forward role, and he's been excelling in that role. Since the start of December, Winslow is averaging 14.7 points, 5.4 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and most importantly, he's shooting the ball tremendously well, having made huge strides in that regard by shooting 47.6% from the field and 42.6% from 3 on 4 attempts per game. Another very notable stat to add on to this is the fact that he's had the best plus-minus on the team in that span, meaning that the Heat outscore opponents by more points when Winslow is on the court compared to everyone else on the team. Point Winslow started as an experiment, but the results have been so positive that it might have to become a full-time thing, and if it is, then Winslow might just keep getting better and better. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.